And, going to the closed is just such a wonderful experience that we were so lucky to get, being such a small district and away from kind of like the tennis hubs downstate and even the, in the Midwest, to play in the closed is a huge opportunity.
Yeah, I'm really glad that we are still able to send a player in each division if we have a qualifier, to play. I think sometimes it's just good for kids to see like, oh, there are other people working really hard, maybe harder than I am, and I think I have a chance to beat them. Maybe that motivates them to like work a little harder or spend some more time on the court or, work on a specific shot or tactic or strategy. We're off and going. Our very first podcast for Northern Michigan tennis. That's exciting.
It's very exciting.
Very exciting.
Yeah. We're going to talk a little bit about, we should tell people where we're coming from. Inside the Grand Traverse Resort and Spa tennis offices, complete with all the sound effects and noises that happen in the offices.
We like to call it ambience.
Ambience, all the ambience. We got it all. And we wanted to talk about in this episode, we should say who's here, right? So we have Dan Hawkins, who is the contracted NMTA. I mean, you're just like the it guy. I don't know what your official title is, but you do like all our live video, now our podcasting, our Facebook, social media.
He's our tech
extravagant.
guru.
Yeah, I mean, just the total marketing genius and guru. I think that should be the official
Sounds good.
title.
I love tennis and I love tech.
Tennis and tech.
They start
There we
with
go.
T. There you go.
And then also we have Lisa Seymour, who is our tennis operations manager at the resort and also the director of 10 and Under Tennis, and also the head varsity tennis coach at Traverse City Central High School, as well as I would say you do numerous other activities that maybe your title doesn't explain, but and we could have a whole episode on just everything that you do. So you are also
Please no.
So thank you for being here. And so we're going to talk about the girls qualifier, which is now called the Northern Michigan Girls District Junior Championships. And so what that is it's our highest level tournament for juniors in the district. The Northern Michigan district is 39 counties, starting in Ludington and going north all the way across the UP to Wisconsin. And so we're hosting that here right before the start of the girls' high school season. Hopefully that will allow more players to participate. We used to run it in June, like the week after the state tournament, or sometimes they would be on the same weekend, so the girls couldn't play if they were state qualifiers. So that kind of hurt us. So we moved it to March 17th, 18th, and 19th, which is the weekend after the start of girls' high school tennis practice. So we'll see if that helps participation at all. And we're hoping that it does. I don't know, Lisa, what are your thoughts on the timing of the district championships? Do you think that helps or hurts participation? Why? Why not? What do you think?
I mean, it should help. The only drawback I see a little bit from just my coaching standpoint is that's like the tail end of my tryouts, and being in Northern Michigan and having to rely most of the time, 99% of the time, on indoor court facility. It's going to make tryout logistics a little tricky.
That's right.
So
it's a good point.
But it's a great tournament for these girls to get some really good, intense match play before actual season starts. So.
There's not a way legally to require your team to participate, is there?
Yeah, no.
It's against the rules. Darn. That's one of the things that makes sometimes that can make tennis for junior players tough is there are different sets of rules for high school and for USTA. So I think one of the rules, and it's different in every state.
Oh, wow.
So like tennis pro that was giving was doing an educational Zoom call last week who is from Ohio. Their high school coaches, who are also full-time pros, can organize anything with their high school players at any time during the year round, as long as it's not a requirement. In Michigan, if you're a high school tennis coach, you can only have contact or be on the court with up to 4.
Yep.
Up to 4 of your players at a time.
And there are mandatory like down and dead periods as well,
where you can't have any contact.
Correct.
Yeah. So I mean, it's totally different.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Going from state to state. But then also, like, one of the rules is, you're only allowed to participate in a certain number of USTA competitions while you're in the high school season that you play in, right? I don't know what that number is.
2.
2. So you can only do 2 USTA events while you're, like, if the girls are in, this will count as one of their 2 that they'd be able to participate in. So they'll have had a week of practice already, and then that weekend is the tournament. So if they wanted to participate in another one during their high school season, which the state tournament is scheduled for when?
June 1st through 3rd.
Yeah. So then they would only have one other be able to participate in one other tournament outside that season. Now, that typically, they usually don't go over, because most of those players you're practicing every day and you've got events every weekend for high school.
I mean, for us, we're traveling most weekends during the season.
Yeah.
Just to get some competition downstate, and so there wouldn't be a lot of time. There wouldn't not be a lot of downtime for the girls as far as being able to participate in
like to
USTA.
plan another USTA event during the season.
Yeah. Our weekends are pretty booked from the time we start matches through the state tournament. So.
Wow.
Yeah, so like high school tennis, and Lisa, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like in Michigan, the majority of your matches are during a weekend. Like there's like tournaments or quads or tries or
There's that ambiance.
Those ambiance. Yeah, ambience. That, by the way, is a swimsuit dryer. I don't know, Dan, if you're familiar with swimsuit drying, but
I'm not an expert.
it's like a miniature dryer. You know how your dryer spins around? Well, that one spins around too, and that's what we're hearing. It's just the vibration of the dryer spinning around. Sheds the water.
What a beautiful sound.
It's a beautiful.
I'll have to capture that separately.
It's like if you ever live next to train tracks, you don't really hear them until it's like, what's that sound? So there's would you say most of the competitions for high school tennis take place on the weekends as well?
Yes, we do have some like midweek tournaments, but most, if not all, of our tournaments are on Saturdays. Fridays or Saturdays, yeah.
Okay.
And during the school year, that's when during the entire year, that's when most USTA tournaments take place too. I mean, just between in northern Michigan and in Michigan and in the Midwest, really, you're talking about indoor tennis for like 9 months, right?
Sure.
So between high schools that are trying to host their team practices or tryouts, clubs that are trying to, do their programming, and then on the weekends, court times and club members renting courts and club events and like high school events. I mean, it's really hard to get indoor court space for most of the time during the year. When the weather gets nicer, everybody wants to be outside and this place is empty. But but
until then, you never know. You might get snow in mid-April or
right. I can remember. Gosh, I've been in the coaching realm for 15 plus years now. I can remember 1, maybe 2 instances where we had outdoor tryouts where there was no snow, the nets were up, and but 2 years that in the spring. Otherwise, it's all indoor.
Are there any high schools up here that have any indoor courts as a part of their school?
Not in the Traverse City area that I'm aware of.
No.
I know of one school in the Upper Peninsula, Negaunee Public Schools. They just completed, I believe, like a field house type of building, which has 2 or 3 tennis courts in it. But it's a multi-purpose building. So there's logistics as far as when they can use it for tennis and when it's used for other things.
Okay.
And then the only other high school that I'm aware of that has something like that is Allegan High School, which is in Western Michigan. They have like a 2 or 3 court field house, but also they use it for basketball and track and other things, I think, as well. So not a real I don't know what you'd call it, priority, I don't think, for it's not like football where it's just played outside no matter what the weather's like. So it's a very limited amount of time that you would actually need it, right? Like,
I mean, do some of the high schools utilize like the college indoor courts? Like I'm thinking like Big Rapids probably uses Ferris State's indoor courts for their.
I would think so.
Yeah.
I don't know, but yeah.
And like up in the UP, the St. Ignace and all them, they probably use, or Sault Ste. Marie, or if they have a tennis team, I'm not sure. They would probably use like Lake States and.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I don't think it's funny because I don't think Sault Ste. Marie has a high school team, and I don't think Houghton has a high school team. And yet those are the two places where there's indoor tennis facilities are. But I do know like a lot of the teams and players and people that play that live in like Marquette, they'll make the 2-hour drive or whatever on a weekend to go play at Michigan Tech. And then, Sault Ste. Marie, those folks will go inside there. It's kind of like a community use, I think, sometimes. But it's just so limited because of all the other things that they do, I think. But yeah, kind of interesting. So, Lisa, as far as high school tennis goes, why would you ever encourage your teams or your players to participate in something like the district championships or the qualifier? Why would that be something you would?
Well, I mean, obviously, it's you want to get your. It is a pretty intense tournament. It's not for all high school players. So let's just put that out there. It's a pretty high level tournament. So you're trying to attract your, what we call our 1s and 2s, our flights of both, because we are running singles and doubles.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's just a great experience for them to kind of get into right now before the season, because I'm one of those coaches that takes kind of like the Tom Izzo approach. I would like to schedule my teams playing really high level matches during the regular season. So when we get to regionals and states, we're not caught off guard like that. And so for these girls, the higher level girls that are playing, like your one singles player who has to be your best player on the team, and even the 2s and possibly the 3s of singles, they should be playing at a high level just to see where their baseline right now is. And then we can kind of talk about what went well, what needs to be worked on. I mean, obviously it would be in practices, but it's just a great experience just from not only a playing standpoint, but a mental toughness standpoint, to play in these high level tournaments as much as you can. So. And as soon as you can.
Yeah.
If they have not already been playing USTA during the off season.
Sure.
So
obviously it's a great sign if one of your girls go and win this tournament, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that's huge to start off the season, right?
Yeah.
Probably.
And going to the closed is just such a wonderful experience that we should really understand. It's an experience that we're so lucky to get, being such a small district and away from kind of like the tennis hubs downstate and even the, in the Midwest. We're just so fortunate to be able to send someone to that type of tournament that they don't necessarily get to see ever.
Yeah.
And so for girls to, play in this and actually have the opportunity to get that spot, to play in the close is a huge opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really glad that we are still able to send a player in each division if we have a qualifier, to play. The feedback from the players that I've talked to that have gone are kind of what you said. It's a really great experience to be with more junior players where, you might be the top player in Traverse City or in northern Michigan, and then you go to the place like, well, I think they're in Grand Rapids this year, or Lansing, or sometimes in Indianapolis. You go to those places and you're playing against that same player from every other place in the Midwest. Right. That number one player that qualified by winning their district championships or being the highest ranked player in their district. That's like your first round opponent. That's really tough. And then so if you can go there and be competitive, maybe that encourages you to continue to work on your game, continue to play USTA tournaments, continue to compete, seek out higher level tournaments like that to apply for, and maybe get into, so you can maintain that level of competition. And I think that for kids that have a goal of playing high school varsity tennis or college tennis, that those are kind of the competitions you should be seeking out.
Yeah, I mean, that's why, like I said, we live in this great little bubble up here that I do love. It's a community. It's for a tennis community and a small community. But, when I try to get competition for our team, I kind of have to look downstate to get that, that match experience, that little more intensity. And it kind of opens up their eyes a little bit more to, hey, what's out there? And then, even going that next level that, get into the closed and seeing that. I mean, my son played high school and college tennis. He was kind of what George was talking about. He was kind of the top guy around this area. And then he got down to Midwest closed and, he took his lumps, but he loved it. He loved seeing that different type of competition. Mm-hmm. That was like his U.S. Open.
Yeah. I think sometimes it's just good for kids to see like, oh, there are other people working really hard, maybe harder than I am, and I think I have a chance to beat them. Maybe that motivates them to like work a little harder or spend some more time on the court or work on a specific shot or tactic or strategy, where if they weren't exposed to that, then they would just think, oh, well, this is it. This is the top. I'm at the top of the hill. I don't have to do anything else. I've arrived. And so it's just kind of good for them to have that experience. It's a bummer that it's only one player.
Right.
You hope they come back and then they tell everybody, oh man, all those players down at the closed, we should really be working a lot. We should continue to work hard,
right?
Because we want to send more people. You can qualify for the Midwest Closed, which is kind of the step after our district championships, by being a highly ranked player. So I believe there's, I don't know if they take 128, I think, in the close, 128.
Yeah. Wow. So
if you're, and certain number are taken off of your ranking, and then a certain number are taking off of what's called your World Tennis Number, which is an International Tennis Federation way of rating a player. So you can qualify based off of those two things and not have to play, to qualify for that one spot that the district gets if you make it in on your own. I think what's tough for Northern Michigan players is it's tough to then, in order to get ranked that high or earn those points or make your WTN as high as, you have to play against players that are already in that realm.
Level, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And so now you're going to like at least Midland, Detroit, and Grand Rapids, for multiple weekends leading up to it to try and get your ranking up there. And going to those places is like going to a closed. It's all those kids that are number one on their high school team and competing for these points and to increase their WTN.
But then this, with the requirements or the restrictions, they could only do 2 of those, you're saying, during the high school season to build up to that.
Right. So
they would be doing those the rest of the year.
Right. Yeah. So once states ends in June, they have July, August, September, October, November, December, January, and all of February
to get that number up if they want to try to get up there and play.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. And so that's another thing. So like in some of those areas, when you talk about the USTA junior tournament structure, there's 7 levels of tournaments that you can play in. 1 is the highest and 7 is the lowest. In each tournament, every round that you win, you're awarded a certain number of ranking points. And the higher level tournament you're in, let's say you play in a level 3, it's kind of like pro tennis, right? At the US Open, you're making a ton of money for one win, where you might not even make that money if you win a lower level tournament. And so you try to play as high a level as you can, but so is everybody else in the Midwest. They're trying to get that high level points as well.
Okay.
And so if you're ranked below that person, however many they accept, and you're the next one, now you're an alternate, or maybe you don't even get into that tournament based off your current ranking. And so in Northern Michigan, we're limited to the level of tournament we can host because of the number of indoor courts. You have to have backup courts in case it rains or whatever to host these events. And so we can host a level 7, which is the lowest. We can host a level 6, which is the next one. And then our district championships is a level 5. And that's about as high as we can go without more indoor tennis courts or cooperation amongst facilities to use more indoor tennis courts for those higher level, like a level 4 or a level 3. And then there's only a certain number of those level tournaments that are dished out every year.
So then even if you had the ability to host those, do you get awarded one of those?
Correct.
Remains to be seen.
Yeah, there's an application process, and there's a lot of good tournament directors in the Midwest that count on these year after year, and they apply every year, and they get them. Essentially, it's like a bidding process.
It's like the Super Bowl.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I
or
guess
the Olympics.
Yeah, exactly.
Just a smaller scale.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So, we're fortunate to be able to host the level 5. It's called the level 5 close, the district championships, because only those players in Northern Michigan can qualify for it or are able to play in it. And then the level 5 is just the points level per round that you get. And so we just want everybody to play because that's how you can maximize your points.
Yeah.
And then let's say, you even qualify for the close. That's a level 3 closed for the Midwest. So you have to live in the Midwest to play it. If you can get a win there, that's a lot of points. And now you can start getting into, let's say you come home after that. Now you can get into like level 5, open level 5s throughout the Midwest. You get some more wins. It just kind of builds momentum for your points. If you don't, and then you can't get into those higher level tournaments, it really limits the tournaments you can get into and the competition that you play against.
Because you don't have the points to get in.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So the one that's coming up here on the 17th, 18, 19 is level 5?
Level 5, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
But if they win that one, they're in a level 3 now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And downstate, that's the one, the Midwest one you're talking about.
Yep.
So, but they reserve one spot for Northern Michigan, regardless of points.
Correct.
So somebody could have 0 points. Well, no, they'd have to have points to get into this level 5, right?
Not really.
Not necessarily.
You just have to be a USTA member that lives in the district.
So that's quite an opportunity.
Yeah.
It's a huge opportunity.
And win that and then go on and play a level 3. You're like, whoa.
Yeah.
And then maybe you win down there or something. And that's where you're saying momentum. You're excited. You're like, okay, wow, I could compete with these people.
Yep.
Keep it going. Wow.
And that's why I think it's a good idea. It's great to hear that somebody from Escanaba is going to come down and play it. I think like all your 1 and 2 singles players, it's got to be a must play in Northern Michigan. If you have, if you want to continue to improve how competitive you are, overall, maybe high school tennis is not the be all. Like if you have a tennis goal beyond high school tennis, this is where you need to be.
Because it's only going to keep, the level's going to keep going up and up as you go, obviously, as you go. Because even if your team, like you said, wins your area, your region, I'm not sure the exact regionals, and then you said the states, right? Is that what it is?
Yes, yeah.
Right. So
it's similar, but it's the similar analogy as far as like we can go down. Our regional is in Midland, and we'll just see those 8 to 11, 12 teams that are in our region.
Okay.
And then once we come out of there, you need a certain amount of points. It's a little different with high school tennis.
Okay.
You need a certain amount of points to either have to finish first or second in your region or get 18 points or 10 points, depending on how many teams are in your region. So then that will qualify you for states. So, and then at states, it's all about those either top 2 teams from each region. So like Division 1, there are, all the divisions have 8 regions.
Okay.
So, so you'd either have to finish first or second or qualify on points. So I think this past year when we were down in Kalamazoo playing at states, there were at least 24. So yeah, at least 22 teams, 20 to 24 teams there. But your singles player can also qualify individually as well. If they finish, so the number 1 singles flight, I should say, can qualify individually if they finish first or second in their region. So sometimes you have just singles players down at the states, number 1 singles players that don't have, their whole team's not there. It's just them with their coach. So it's a little different. But it's interesting because you get a kind of a skewed perspective if you finish first or second in your region, and you have somewhat of there's some really lopsided regionals, like the Grand Rapids area has some really top teams all in one region, and only 2 or 3 of those make it out of the region to make it to states. So it's almost like you don't get all the best teams. Like if you rank the teams 1 through whatever, you're not going to get all those teams at states. It's just dependent on your region and how you come out of your region and who's in your region. So
right. So if you win your region and then you go play, like maybe your team wouldn't be the number 10 in this other region.
Correct. Yes,
right.
There is that possibility.
But now you're showing up playing their 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Okay. So there you're saying that's why the level just goes up.
Right.
It's a little different.
Yeah.
But then you could show up and have a great day, and they have a rough day, and then all
That's
of a sudden
true.
you beat them. You're like,
that's why we play the matches.
Anybody can beat anybody on any given day, right?
Any given day.
It seems like in both the structures for advancement, there's an opportunity for teams that maybe wouldn't make it off of merit. If you took the top, 22 teams, and they all the teams in Michigan played each other, the top 22 teams might not be the same teams that actually qualify for states.
Right.
Every year.
Yeah.
And so the same thing happens in USTA with that guaranteed 1 spot from Northern Michigan. Unless you have a really special player who's doing a lot of traveling and earning a lot of points and, getting a lot of wins, they'd probably never see the Midwest closed other than winning this 1 spot that we can send players with. So I feel like that aspect of it keeps the dream alive, like for other junior players in Northern Michigan. Otherwise, it might seem like this insurmountable hill to like just travel and play all these matches and try and get all these wins. So that's another reason why people should play the qualifier.
That's right. You hear that, girls?
I think you're doing a good job of articulating the specialness of this event.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. And the boys, and it's actually girls 14, 16s, and 18s that'll compete. The girls 12s, boys 12s, and all the other boys to age divisions will happen in June. We do that one outside typically because the closed is played outside. In June, we do that kind of the weekend of the state tournament, like Lisa was saying. Yeah, so the district allows us to, the USTA allows us to decide when we do the age divisions for our district championships, and we just so happen to be able to move the girls ahead of the season a little bit so that it wouldn't interfere with the state tournament, because that's when we run the rest of the age divisions. Yeah.
Because then they couldn't, if they made states, they couldn't play.
There'd be no way.
Right, yeah.
And a lot of the better gals that would want to play this are
probably being
preoccupied.
in the state tournament.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, well, that's cool. So they allow you to do that.
Yeah. That's just kind of that's as about as high as the control of a district goes.
Okay.
As far as USTA tournaments, being able to, finagle those dates. There's at least one other district in Michigan I know that has done this and has had success with increasing participation. And so that's what we're trying.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. So that's March 17th, 18th, and 19th.
Yeah. So that's that. The qualifier. Everybody should play the qualifier.
Yeah.
You could come from any town in northern Michigan, never have played a USTA tournament, but maybe you play one or two on your team and have some success and maybe qualify. So that's kind of cool. Lisa, is there anything else you would like to say about high school tennis coming up? Or, I know that a lot of coaches are communicating with their teams about what they need to have done before the high school season. What are some of those things that kids need to think
I know
about?
we've been focusing on the qualifier and girls' high school season, but we also have some other events that they can do. The high school girls can do before the season. We have a mini camp that's going on at the resort. Actually, the weekend of March 3rd through 5th. It's a lot of good hitting. Anything that they can do right now before or even right after the tryout week starts to just get their game kind of fine-tuned. You're not going to, right now it's going to be tough if you haven't been doing the work in the off season to, get ready, but there are some things you can do, like the mini camp coming up and just maybe taking some lessons or whatever. But we're excited for the season to come up and all these opportunities that Northern Michigan has for these high school girls before their season starts. So
Yeah.
it's out there. We just have, we as coaches have to make sure the girls, are aware of all this information, these opportunities, and get it out there and spread the word. Because you can't, right now they should be all these girls starting soon should be hitting a lot, at least a couple times a week right now. At least that's the minimum. So, and it should be more of a tune-up type of thing right now. The work goes in the off season. And that's why actually, if you have been, if these girls have been playing in the off season, doing tournaments, downstate or whatever, the qualifier is actually kind of a really good time and a natural kind of conclusion, I should say, to their tournament, USTA tournament season before their high school season gets started. So it's kind of you moved it to a good time though, George, even though it messes up with my indoor practice, but it's okay.
We'll have to look at that for next year.
It's good. They should be looking into it. And we as coaches may have to lean a little bit on those higher level girls to get them in there, get some good competition before the season, the actual high school season starts. So yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you. Well, I thought that this was kind of cool. This was a good discussion about USTA tennis and high school tennis and kind of how they can work together and how they're both maybe a necessary part of development. If your tennis goals lie in, state championships or college tennis or anything beyond, recreational tennis, I think that, these are good ways to develop your game and work on your game and continue to improve. And so, this was good. A lot of fun. Thanks for
asking me to jump in here.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I know I learned a lot, so I'm sure everybody else listening learned a lot.
Well, Dan, we feel like we learned a lot about audio recording today.
Did you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, get close to the microphone.
Close to the microphone.
Open your mouth and talk.
Yes.
That's all you got to do. You all did great.
Well, thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Dan.
All right. We'll see you next time.